You are Locked On Falcons Postcast, part of Locked On Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Atlanta Falcons Postcast, the Locked On Falcons Postcast. It's your home for the best Falcons talk. And of course, it's local insight you can't get anywhere else but right here on Locked On. I am Tenitra Batiste, and I am here with a fired up Jarvis Davis and a fired up Aaron Freeman. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The Locked On Falcons Postcast is also part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, guys, we had hoped that this would be a game where the Falcons would finally stop the bleeding. Instead, it was almost like just, when you scrape over an open wound or you have a scab and the wound is not quite healed yet. Okay, that's kind of what it felt like they did to us today. 25-23, the final out in the Valley of the Sun. The Cardinals welcome Kyler Murray back. Well, or maybe the Falcons welcomed him back with a party that nobody here in Atlanta wanted to see. Now, we'll deep dive into the deets of why this game went the way it did, and also talk about what the bye will bring for the Falcons, or should bring for the Falcons. But first, guys, let's talk about your takeaways on this Falcons loss. Jarvis, you said you couldn't tell who was the one-win team.
I couldn't. It looked like, teams were just having different situations where it's a missed tackle here, or like they came out on the drive and like neither team really tried the offense. I feel like, but you saw Kyler Murray start taking some shots downfield later in the game and then be able to take advantage of that. But it was just a low. This was just a long lull for me, and I just feel like okay. And you just got to the point where you were just waiting for something bad to happen. And I'm sure the Cardinals have experienced that, being, that they got their second win of the season today. And then these past few weeks or past couple of weeks where you have an opportunity to close out a game or finish a team, and you just aren't able to do it because you take a bad angle and you aren't able to bring the quarterback down. Or the quarterback is looking at you out of the corner of his eyes like, oh, okay, you're going to try to go inside for me? Don't worry about it. I'm just going to spin up out there and go get the first down. So
right.
It's just
or you're
so
gonna
many.
Play behind granted, you didn't think Kyler Murray was going to take a deep shot, but you're going to play behind the receiver as opposed to in front of him. Little I don't want to even say miscues, Jarvis. I want to ask you a question, and I know it's your takeaway, but darn it, you said something that made me think. Why are we having this conversation at this point in Arnold Ebikete's career, or the career of a veteran secondary? Like, to me, these seem like elementary mistakes.
Yeah, it's like you get into a point where like it's kind of like a free fall effect, like a snowball effect, excuse me. And when some person makes one little mistake, like you have a guy, Jesse Bates, who seemed like, it was struggling in man coverage today. It was kind of like, all right, then Richard Grant. Okay, you started to see him struggle in coverage today. Not saying that those two things have anything to do with each other, but all of it just kind of compounds on top of each other, and eventually you lose the game by giving up a big play because, like on that particular play right there you're talking about to Trey McBride, that was a bad throw. that wasn't this amazing throw where like Kyler Murray only could put it in a certain spot.
Right.
Richard Grant was just flailing around, not knowing, panicking, not knowing where the ball is, not trying to play the football, playing the man, like which will get you in trouble 95% of the time. And it's just like, okay, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't shocked at that fact. So it just seems like it's just too many like small things, little things that just continue to add up as the game goes along. And I know for me, I was sitting there, I was like, they're not going to win this game because Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals were started taking advantage of those little mental mistakes that they had each and every time, to whether it be picking up a third down for rushing the ball for 13 yards, or Lorenzo Carter doggone missing James Conner, and he's spinning up out that bad boy and getting the first down running the football when it should have been a -2 on a play. So it's just all those plays just add up to say, you know what, you're just not good enough. And that's why I sat up there and said I couldn't tell who was the one-win team, because you got quarterback issues, and Lord knows the Cardinals have had quarterback issues before Kyler Murray came back. It was just too much stuff going on for the Falcons to come out with a win, and it just and frankly, I'm just used to it at this point.
And I have to say, Free, when I was thinking about the first couple of games, right, where there were comeback opportunities, I actually felt okay. Like I felt like, okay, Falcons, they can come back and they can do this. This is actually the first game this season where I felt like, oh, it ain't happening. They're not coming back. I don't care about the go-ahead touchdown. I still felt like they were not coming back. And that concerned me that I felt that way, because that means I've lost confidence, because I'm thinking, okay, yep, I don't think they're going to make the right play, the save a game play on this final Cardinals drive. I feel like, no, the Cardinals are going to make a save a game play and they're going to win this. It's just, it's painful to kind of watch as you see the team and you think to yourself something that Jarvis just said, I don't know, maybe they just weren't as good as we thought they were. But I think at this point, Aaron, you're just like, I just need a break from all this.
I do. I definitely need a break. I agree with you, Tenitra. When Desmond Ridder scored and I looked at the clock and I saw 2 minutes and 33 seconds left, I was like, Arizona's going to score. The question is just how quickly they score. Do they bleed off all the clock, or do the Falcons get one more? That was it. And so now I'm at a point where I'm just like, hey, it's a great time to have a bye week, because I need a break from this team. I don't know what else to say. I think everybody kind of needs a break from this team. Just get back, take a chill, take a week off, and enjoy a good football team, next weekend on Sunday.
Have your choice.
Wash whatever the Falcons have been these last couple of games out of your mouth, that bad taste out of your mouth, and just get back to enjoying life. Take a walk during the fall. Go to a pumpkin patch. Get that recipe from grandma for Thanksgiving. Whatever you need to do to get your nice little reset, go ahead and do it. You have my permission if you were looking for that, because that's exactly what I'm going to be doing this week. Because we all watched this team, and it was like we all knew what was coming at the end of this game. So it was like, whatever, man. I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good. Now, one thing that was a little bit scary was when we saw Taylor Heinicke go down, and then it was confirmed that, hey, he's out for the game. But Desmond Ridder, Aaron, we actually have a few extra minutes. I want to go back to something you were talking about pre-show. And, Desmond Ridder came in and he did his job. He went 4 of 6 for 39 yards in the passing game. And of course, had that nice little read call, and he just scampered right on. Now that's one thing he does right. And he's done right several times this season. So of course, 4 carries for 34 yards and 3 carries for 11 yards. But the most important was the fact that it was a touchdown. So now, Aaron, does that mean that that's going to be one of the top things that Arthur Smith has to think about, whether or not, if Taylor Heinicke's healthy coming back against the Saints, does he put Desmond Ridder in? Does he put Taylor Heinicke back in? Because the whole thing was, as he said this week, I didn't bench him. Oh, okay. So do we have a dilemma on our hands, Aaron?
They got to go back to Ridder. I did not think Heinicke played well at all against the Vikings. I thought that was one of the worst games we've seen from a Falcons quarterback in a long time, and that includes the worst of Desmond Ridder and the worst of Marcus Mariota and whoever else you want to put on that list. And then watching the game today, Heinicke made a couple of nice scrambles. I didn't see him really do anything throwing the football. And so regardless of how you feel about Desmond Ridder, I mean, he came in and hit that pass to Drake London, and like within 2 plays, like he did more than what Taylor Heinicke did in 3 quarters. So I'm like, go back to Ridder, see what you got. I don't know what else this team has to play for. They got to get real hot after their bye week to really have a chance to take back this division and win it. That seems to be slipping away from them. It's not over, but I just think you got to go back to Ridder at this point in time, because I've seen enough of Taylor Heinicke, and you don't want to see a player get injured, but I think in a lot of ways that might be a blessing in disguise, because it may take that choice out of Arthur Smith's hands going.
Yeah, exactly. And their Falcons are really lucky that the Saints comeback fell just short against the Vikings today, and then the Bucks miraculously won. So it's like so up and down. That's the only thing that's keeping them in the mix at this point. But Jarvis, I want to hear from you as well before we wrap up the conversation and the takeaways. Where do you think Arthur Smith should go from here when they come back? And this is going to assume that they're both healthy, both Dez and Taylor Heinicke.
I mean, I'm at the point where it don't even matter who's playing quarterback, because when you have two quarterbacks that play in an NFL game and they don't get over 100 yards passing, like, there is a serious problem, and it goes beyond the quarterback. There is a schematical game plan type issue going on with this team, and execution as well. So, like, I'm putting everybody up on the table, because, like, when you have a tight end chipping and nobody picks him up, you know, whether it be a right tackle for some strange region sliding down, you know, and then you got BJ Ojolari up here looking like people up here saying, "Oh my God, they had a chance to draft BJ Ojolari." I was like, the man got 1 sack on a daggone year, you know. So it's just like, it's just sad. It is sad. It's a sad song that we try to figure out what this team needs to do in order to compete in division. Forget the division. Like, this is about the future. Like, what does the future look like for the Atlanta Falcons? Like, is Desmond Ridder the quarterback for this team? Some people already have their answer on that. I'm kind of close to the answer on that, but I'm at the point now, like, we know what Taylor Heinicke is. Like, we know what he is. He's a backup quarterback in the NFL, a solid backup quarterback. Come in, spare you for a couple games, and then go on about his way. But now I'm at the point where I want to see if Arthur Smith can be the head coach of this team. Like, I'm not saying he should be fired, but, like, there needs to be a come to Jesus moment within these next couple of weeks. Like, because, it needs to be figured out, and I need to see if Arthur Smith can figure it out. Yeah, they need to figure it out really fast.
And I agree with you. Just one more quick comment, and then we'll wrap up. I agree with you on it probably doesn't matter whether it's Dez or Taylor. It probably should be Dez, so that you can truly see what you have, so you can see whether or not you need to go back to the draft and try to get somebody. But more importantly, I think that, everybody needs to start from scratch, because I'm looking like, okay, Caden Ellis, hadn't heard that name very often. Okay, Jesse Bates III, can we get the one that we had the first couple of games of the season? There's player after player after player where you could potentially say, I need more if the Falcons are going to get back in this playoff hunt, if you will. So when we come back, we're going to deep dive a little bit more into this Falcons-Cardinals game. But first, I want to talk to you guys about Gametime. So when you think about worrying tickets, right, it is a worry sometimes, because especially if it's a last minute situation where maybe you have an opportunity to get the ticket, but you're not quite sure how it's going to play out. You're not quite sure if it's the right move for you to gamble that way. Well, if you do it, you probably need to do it through Gametime. That way you don't have to worry about the ticket process, rather, whether it's sports, music, comedy, etc. With killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, they give you the best price guaranteed, and they take the guesswork out of it for you. They also have things like flash deals and zone deals, and you can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you'll know exactly where you are before you get there. 2 seconds, 2 taps, you can get your ticket. And I think it's really cool that they have a guarantee that means you'll always get the best price, because if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, guys, time to go a little bit deeper into this game. I do want to start on a positive note, and then we'll dig into what really went down the rest of the game. But going back to the first scoring drive, Falcons ran the ball 9 times. They threw 3 passes. And although it was a throw that got him the touchdown, it was really what Bijan Robinson was able to do on the ground, kind of setting the tone throughout this entire game. So finally, did we see, Aaron, what we wanted to see in number one, what Bijan was able to do on the ground, and number two, the play calling that helped him to be his most effective self?
Yeah, I mean, you saw the run game. The Falcons finished with 180 yards. You wanted to see this Falcons team get back to running the football. A lot of that was owed to Bijan, but you had a sprinkle of quarterback runs. Tyler Algier. It was nice for Bijan to have this type of game in front of his, in his home crowd, in front of his family, since he is from Tucson. So yeah, I think it's funny because all week long on Locked On Falcons, like the whole Bijan isn't getting enough touches in the red zone conversation to me was a little bit overblown, but I'm glad that he got these touches. And so now we can focus on like the real problems with the Atlanta Falcons, which are not, a handful of touches for Bijan in the red zone. But yeah, it was a good performance for Bijan. It is nice. Like this is what, like the one positive from this game is, this is how you want to see this team running the football for the rest of the season. And we've seen now with the last couple of games, there's running game getting back to form, that late game against the Vikings and, Tampa Bay a couple of weeks ago. So there's some positives from this running game that they can take this into the bye week and out of the bye week and say, okay, we're getting back to our identity. They still got a whole lot of other stuff they got to figure out, but at least this is something that they could take away from positively.
Indeed, Jarvis. And you saw the Falcons mix in Tyler Algier here and there. You saw mix in Cordero Patterson, but it was good to see Bijan as the featured back today.
Absolutely, because that's why you drafted him. That's why you brought him in here, because he's a special talent. And for me, it's I know early on, I know he was able to get things going, but it just seems like he's not the same player like he was in those first couple of games. Like as far as the explosiveness, just being able to break guys off. I mean, you saw him do that a little bit today, but I don't know. It might just be me. I don't know, but it just seems like it's something just isn't quite right. And I think that, we saw some positive outcomes, when you got him to rock, and I think that kind of helped it a little bit. And you saw him kind of, get up in there and be able to break some guys off. But it's just that offensive line is not right. That's what's not right. Like, let me start there. The offensive line isn't right. And it hasn't been right for the past month and a half, so to speak. So I think that, but it was good that Arthur, like I'm about to come with a nickname from overcompensating Arthur. Like put him on punt return too. I was like, all right, like do we really need to see him on punt return? Like no, we don't. And then they did it one time, and then they put Skeet and Scotty in there, for the rest of the game. So it's just like, why are you doing that? Like, there's no need for that. Just give him the ball when it makes sense. And it makes sense to give him the ball in the red zone, right? So, and you saw, what he was able, them feeding the football. Once they got into the red zone, Arizona had all eyeballs on Bijan, and then Scotty Miller just came right up underneath and was wide open. So that's what, you're talking about Bijan being able to open up things for this offense. Like, you have to give him the ball, and he has to be successful, when you give it to him. So, and that's what's going to help your offense open up things for other guys. So, I think it was good to see him get the ball rolling today.
And it's funny because I was going to ask you if you think it's mental, because we've heard nothing coming out of Flowery Branch, not from the media, not from the Falcons organization, saying that it's something physical. So really it's something mental. But after, just kind of thinking about it, it's like, well, yeah, it might be mental if you don't know who the heck is going to block for you and how much you're going to be able to count on those guys to spring you open. So I think that's maybe you don't see the explosiveness because who the heck is giving him the space to be explosive? So, that maybe is another kind of piece of that puzzle, if you will. The other thing, and listen, I'm just going to fall back because this is the funniest thing to me ever. But Jarvis, you told Aaron, Tori McElhaney, who will be with us tomorrow for the Atlanta football party, and me, that you wanted to see more tackles, especially in open space. And poor tackling let's just be real, who gave the Cardinals the win because you had opportunities to tackle and you just flat out missed. Why are we still having this conversation? And what did you think about why they just couldn't execute with something as basic as just get the man on the ground? And I'm not talking about QB get on the ground. I'm talking just the man, whoever the man is of the other 11, just get him on the ground.
It's just you have lackadaisical moments. That's the only explanation I have for guys missing tackles. I mean, because that's what you do, and it's been that way for these past couple of weeks, right? Like, because the beginning of the year, we weren't talking about no missed tackles. We were talking about guys getting turnovers and putting the offense in good with short fields and defense up here stopping folks and like the defense looking like a top 10 defense. I mean, they are statistically, but like they've had some lapses these past few weeks in this 3-game losing streak. So when you think about all of those things kind of coming together, it's and I'll say this too. Like when you lose guys like Grady Jarrett, not to saying that Grady Jarrett is, hey man, y'all need to make sure y'all tackling. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying like when you start to lose guys like that, for games, they set the tone, and then you have David Onyemata today. That stuff matters. I mean, you have Kentavious Street playing a lot more snaps than what you expected him to play. Then you have Timmy Horn coming up in here and making having to play a little bit more. So you had Calais Campbell helping out at D tackle today. You didn't bring him in there. You told him, hey, you're gonna play defensive end. So it was just a lot of little things that are going on up front that like you only can say, hey, next man up for so long before you start to see some of that stuff kind of fall. And I'm seeing Lorenzo Carter playing a lot more than what he should be. It's just too many variables. All right, here we go. All right, I'm quoting Arthur Smith. There are a lot of variables that go into your defense not making the plays that you used to seeing them make. At this point in the season, and I think it starts with guys not being there like Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata, and guys just having lax moments when and it's when it's time to make plays, and Arnold Ebiketie just didn't make the play, and it's simple technique like, hey man, rush up with your outside arm free, man. Like you don't, especially not on a guy with Kyler Murray, like you supposed to make sure you don't let him get outside of you at the end of the day, regardless of what technique you use. So it was just.
I just hear my guy, Hugh Douglas. I just hear him talk. I can just hear him screaming, outside contain. But also, Aaron, when you look back at that particular play that we're talking about, where Arnold Ebiketie's technique was suspect, it really wasn't just him, because that was the first opportunity. But when you look back at that play, you see way too many of the Falcons defenders just standing there waiting for Kyler Murray to kind of blow by him. I saw 3 defenders do absolutely nothing to stop this guy, whether that was, reach your arm out, whether that was lunge at him, something, just standing there. And Jarvis called it. That to me is lackadaisical, and that's troublesome.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to a conversation we talked about when Grady Jarrett went down, right? We talked about you need that guy that can go get you a bucket in the fourth quarter. And the Falcons, without him, without David Onyemata, didn't have a guy that could get them a bucket, right? Yeah. The basketball equivalent, you got a wide open 3, right, to hit it, and you airball it, and that's basically what happened on that play. With as you said, Tenitra, a bunch of people that were in a position to get that stop, and they didn't get the stop, and I don't know what else to say about it.
I think you're dead on, because you get to a point where you just don't know what to say, because those are things where at this point in your career, unless you are truly a rookie, there is no excuse for some of what we're seeing. And also, what are the terms, and I'm kind of forgetting how he says it, so I'm going to ask you guys. But Ryan Nielsen has a particular term that he likes to use with aggressive and something else.
Attack and aggressive. Yep.
Yes, attack and aggressive. Thank you, Jarvis. Attack and aggressive. Where was that today?
I remember.
Yeah,
they attacked, but it was like a cat attack, and they got the cat scratched their eyes out as they were trying to attack.
A ball of yarn, like they were scratching a ball of yarn. They were just playing around with a ball of yarn.
Right.
I don't know.
And I know this is going to be over most people's heads, but Cat Williams did a really, really hilarious bit on that about a decade ago, where the lion instead of going roar, the lion was like, and that's why he wasn't king of the jungle anymore. Okay, we're gonna let it go. Let it go at
Yes.
this point.
Wow.
We are devolving just like the Falcons did.
Yes, we are.
Arizona State, but I
Can't get a
promise
bucket at this moment. Like,
you, right. When we come back, I promise you, we're actually going to get back to talking about football because we need to talk about what we think is next for these Falcons to get it right during the bye and come back on a different note. But before that, let me tell you a little bit about FanDuel. All right, so FanDuel is your number one sportsbook here in America. You score early this NFL season when you use FanDuel. So right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. And who doesn't need that when you look at the calendar and you see we're about 6-7 weeks away from Christmas? If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and I love a user-friendly app. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn throughout the NFL season. That's FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. All right, guys. I think we know where we're probably going to be. Either we're going to be on the couch with a therapist trying to make sense of all this, or we're going to be at the local spa trying to get somebody to get the kinks out of our mental and everywhere else, or we're going to be on the Atlanta football party tomorrow and next week trying to figure out what in the world Tink Tink can do to untink Tink itself. That's it. Aaron, I'm just going to look up at you. You get us back on track, Aaron. This is off the rails. What are they going to do during this bye week to get back on track?
Well, they got to figure out their quarterback. I've gone on record saying it should be Desmond Ridder. I've gone on record. I don't think they should have gone to Taylor Heinicke. The whole point of that was to try to spark this team and get them back in the win column, and it didn't work. So, I feel like that raises a lot of questions about the overall decision making of this coaching staff, which is, may or may not have some consequences at the end of the season, depending on the rest of the way it goes. But, the run game, get back to work. Defense, I don't know, man. It's just like I think we were set up to we were led astray with this defense or how well they played.
run amok.
Yeah, the first 7 games of the season, and these last couple of weeks, they have come crashing back down to earth and looking too much like a typical Falcons defense, especially in these critical moments when it's just like, well, this is what we've experienced as watching the Falcons over the years. Like, opposing team gets the ball back in the final minutes, they're going to go down the field and score. They just are. You just know it's going to happen. It's just a question of how and when and how fast it happens. And that's kind of been the case these last couple of weeks. So they got to figure that thing out. They got to get back to looking like September Falcons defense, because November Falcons defense and late October Falcons defense has been rough. So those are the things they got to figure out.
I mean, that's a great call. And you think about it, like even the jokes, and I want to read this comment from Joseph Barfield in a minute because I think you guys should weigh in on it. But it really is disconcerting because you're thinking to yourself, like, okay, Kyler Murray has been out for a year. He should be rusty. He should not be able to do this, that, and the third. And Kyler Murray was looking like his all-world self once, he kind of figured out some things, and there just didn't seem to be any like reset. And I get it. You don't have all your tools. You don't have all your resources. Ryan Nielsen didn't to work with today, but it just felt like everybody just stood back and said, okay, we're just going to let Kyler do what he does. And it was just troubling. Now, Joseph makes a great question, or poses a great question and makes a great point. He says he thinks the players have quit on Arthur Smith. I will be honest with you guys. It was a thought in the back of my mind. I hope not, because I do not think that it's the time. It doesn't quite feel, Jarvis, for me like it did when Dan Quinn was the coach and we were in that booth and all of us were saying, oh, yeah, they've tapped out. I don't think it's that, but I don't know. It's a great question. It's a great question to pose.
I don't think they quit on him.
No.
I think that because at the end of the day, like, they are playing for contracts. Like, they don't have guaranteed contracts. Like, there are some outs in a lot of these guys' contract. So it's kind of hard to say that they've quit on them at this juncture,
Right.
because they've had opportunities to make plays, or they've been put in position to make plays. They just haven't made them as players, right? Or they aren't doing what they're supposed to do on said play, and they are giving up big plays, or they're not turning around and trying to find the football, or so the tight end can come back and catch a punt, to put it in a position to win the game. So so I wouldn't say that at this moment, but I will say that the Falcons are in a space where you are starting to question a lot what's going on, from a game planning and a schematical standpoint. Like, you have to start questioning that now. You have to start questioning leadership at this point, because this has happened 3 weeks in a row. You said Kyler Murray, oh yeah, he hadn't played in football in a year. Yeah, they should be able to do. Nah, we said that when Will Levis made his first start. We said that when Jaron Hall, and until he got hurt, when he made his first start, before he got hurt, he was what, 5 for 6? So it looked like he was going to be able to have a good showing anyway. And then you got the guy come off the bench, basically off the plane in Atlanta, and met them at the stadium and said, hey man, I'll play for y'all today. Y'all need me? Okay, cool. Josh Dobbs, he ended up doing his thing. And he ended up kicking the Saints behind today. It's just, and that's the thing, right? That's the funky thing, because we know, God, we've been covering the team for a while. I feel like Arthur Blank is not going to fire Arthur Smith right now, because they still have a chance to win this division. But my whole thing is, look at the division. Is that the standard?
Right.
A bad division? Now, if it were in a good division, if the Falcons were in a good division,
this was the
yeah, that's a whole different conversation, right? Because you holding yourself to a certain standard, but the division is so average, and that's going to be your standard for whether or not you actually do something or make a move or start to considering to make a move, on your head coach. And I just feel like that's just weak. And I think, like I said, I'm not advocating for Arthur Smith to be fired, but I'm just talking about just from an organizational standpoint. Like, that is not good if you're basing your whole decision making off of what somebody else is doing.
Yeah.
It's just not good.
Yeah, that's fair. Aaron, what about you? Do you think that the players have quit on Arthur Smith?
No, I don't think we've gotten that point. Like, I don't think Richie Grant gave up that play because Richie Grant quit. I just think Richie Grant just has been giving up plays.
Richie Grant thing.
Yeah.
And Arnold Ebiketie whiffed on that. Well, ain't nobody tackled the quarterback yet for this defense. So, they didn't quit. That's why, if they had tackled Josh Dobbs, last week and then the whiffed on this, even then I'd still be like, well, that's Kyler. He's different, all that stuff. So I don't know if they've quit on the team, but yeah, they're going to have to figure something out coming out of the bye to avoid, that conversation, because it is going to be a conversation moving forward if they can't get back in the win column and start playing well. And as Jarvis said, like, winning this division at this point is not going to be an impressive achievement. So they have to go out there and play impressive football down the stretch. And that's going to be the thing that this coaching staff is going to have to figure out. And I'm skeptical. I think everybody's skeptical right now because we just have not seen it in a while. We get like one positive a week, and then everything else goes awry for this team. And it's just like, this feels a lot like some old Falcon teams when we were talking about, coaches being on the hot seat. So that's the issue that they're going to have to avoid over these next 7 games.
Indeed. Well, listen, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and the conversation continues tomorrow. So please check us out for more Falcons talk on the Atlanta Football Party. Right. Okay, well, we got ourselves saying.
Are we still live?
I think it looks like we are.